Outcast. Well, we know what it is and what it's like. But do we know what went into creating this game? Well, to find out, we need to start at the beginning, where one of the biggest changes in game development began. In 1994, the gaming world was slowly shifting from 2D based games to 3D environments. The four-cornered pixel was being replaced with a triangle to introduce the reign of the polygons. To keep up with the industry, the creators of Outcast knew their next game had to make use of this developing technology. However, the ideas of what they wanted to achieve just weren't possible with the early limitations of polygons. The other alternative? Voxels. This alternative allowed the designers to create limitless landscapes and 3D objects due to how it rendered the 3D pixels in real time, only leaving a pixelated edge when seen from afar. However, up close, the object was smooth. But what game to make using this alternative? A couple of ideas were thrown around the table, first agreeing in a game set in a fictional South American country where you play the role of infiltrating a drug cartel with the goal of saving some abducted tourists. Well, the idea changed over time, so much so that the fictional South American country changed to an alien parallel world named Adelpha. Development had begun, and Appeal was born. The company was made up of Jan Roberts, Frank Suer, and Yves Gollet as the main directors. The first test of creating a landscape were on rice fields, stairs taking the players up and down the landscape. Sound familiar? Yep, this later became the region of Shamazar. With the first demonstration of what they could achieve with the new system complete, the next step was to gain funding. Their first stop was today's gaming giant, Ubisoft. Back then, the company was more well known for games like Rayman, Buck Bumble, and one of the missed games, Riven. Yet the French company wasn't interested. The second stop was Infogram. Remember that company that published all those games back in the 90s and early noughties? Well, they were amazed at what they were shown, and thus funding was given to Appeal. Enough money to buy an office and 1.5 million to create the game. A normal budget of a AAA game back then. Nowadays you could find budgets passing the 100 million mark. Appeal's office was located in Namur, Belgium, the birthplace of Outcast. Appeal's team at one time consisted of 20 employees. However, if you look at AAA games today, you will find teams in the hundreds. Nowadays, 20 employees would be close to the size of an independent game. But Appeal were aiming for the big time. The team was split up into two groups, art and programming. Franks headed the art department and Jan and Yves directed programming. The art ranged from skyboxes to animal textures, whilst programming focused on the guts of the game and how to achieve the look and the AI. Early videos and images show how Cutter would have looked, sporting a robe identical to the outfit he travelled back to Earth in.
No way. No way! I am not wearing this yak suit. You can just forget it.
No, that's all we've got in the wardrobe.
Then I'm running around buck naked for this shoot, pal. I'm not spending another second in this rancid potato skin.
Sorry, it's all we got.
I've got an idea. Wait there.
As time went by, Cutter's robe is dropped for the top and trousers he wears in the finished game, and the headset was changed for the smaller compact version of the Invisor.
What do you think?
Yes, I love it. This is great. Don't move. Let's get shooting. No, sorry. Let's get running. Don't shoot.
Thought you'd see it my way.
In 1997, the team showed off Outcast at E3. Outcast had to compete with other new games such as Abe's Odyssey, Metal Gear Solid, the original Fallout, Half-Life, GoldenEye 007, and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. In retrospect, a hell of a year for a company to showcase their game. What they thought would be a small group of other developers seeing their game ended up being crowds of people just wanting to get a glimpse of this Outcast. In the storm of all these big games, the new company Appeal from Belgium was still there, standing strong. Now, a large part of the look of Outcast is down to the special effects. As you swam through waters, you would create ripples, a depth of field was present, and the real-time shadows for all characters were in-game. To add to what Appeal was achieving with Outcast, we need to mention the incredible AI for its time.
Look, amazing, lifelike artificial intelligence.
Not only could you interact with every character, but they also had their own paths they would follow, which would change if a fight would occur, or depending on the story, what they were doing altogether. A morality meter was also current. If you went around killing random Talan, they would fear and hate you, making the game almost impossible to complete.
How do all Talan feel about me?
Finding more songs to praise you has never been easier, Ulukai.
How do all Talan feel about me?
Feyran is almost better loved than you.
Is there anything you can tell me about Croax?
His essence is evil, like I think yours must be.
How Talan would react to you from afar could always be seen through body language, how their arms moved and the way they moved themselves. Movement was always a large part of Outcast, whether it be how the characters talked to each other and how expressive they were with their arms, or how Cutter would... how he would walk, I guess. To achieve this, the team used motion capture. Again, motion capture in games was something not really heard of, as the first game to use the technology only came out a couple of years prior. The sheer mass of the game in terms of the size of the map, the non-linear gameplay, and the total number of Talan in the world at one time was astounding for a game of its time. Remember, Outcast came out 2 years before games like GTA 3 and even Halo. Not only had appeal reached further than most would with their games, there was one more cherry to be placed on the cake. The music.
So if Feyran... Would someone please turn off the music?
The mix of music in Outcast is a large mix, a varied mix of some classical elements, some very exotic or esoteric elements. Something esoteric is when you're in the city world, it's sort of a Middle Eastern, very exotic sort of landscape. So the way I create an exotic landscape musically is I use an instrument called the duduk, which is an Armenian instrument. In the forest world, I use African percussion. Talking drum, djembe, African congas.
Outcast again was one of the first games to have orchestrated music, created by Lenny Moore and performed by the Moscow Symphony Orchestra. With all these wonderful elements and a strong story, which may have had one or two similar plots to the 1994 Stargate film, was the game any good? Well, the reviews for the game show us that this was indeed a big yes. Nothing could go wrong. The game was receiving fantastic reviews, the technology in the game was amazing for its time, and all wrapped up in a beautiful cinematic score.
Nice music.
You have my thanks, Ulukai.
The trailers were released, Game Magazine started to print information about the game. One trailer was created purposely to be shown in the cinema, which was again unheard of for games.
Soon you will experience adventure like never before, in an unknown world, as beautiful as it is dangerous. A unique experience where everything depends on you.
All right, it's a game. You have the controls, but get this straight. Nobody makes me do this.
Outcast, a groundbreaking event on PC.
Hey, knock it off.
The only game with Cutter Slade.
Remember that publisher which gave them all that money? Well, at the time of Outcast released, Infogram's American section was going through reconstruction after they acquired GT Interactive. The result of this was hardly any support given to the release in the US. With such a large market over there, and the game heavily focusing on a Hollywood-style adventure, Outcast release sort of slipped by. However, the story was very similar everywhere else, but for different reasons. As Betamax lost to the VHS and HD DVDs lost to the Blu-ray, from the start of development, polygons had dwarfed any possibility of voxels ever becoming something bigger. PC gamers had just bought 3D cards to cater for the triangles, yet Outcast relied on a heavy processor instead. Gamers just didn't want to fork out on expense of a new CPU just for this one game, meaning sales were far from the estimated figure. Yet, Outcast was regarded as one of 1999's best games of the year, with GameSpot calling it the Action Game of the Year. The game still sold 400,000 copies, 50,000 of which were sold in the US. However, Outcast never really made the impact it was due to make, thus meaning it was just another game on the shelf. But a lot of the time, a game or film will come out, and it just brushes by, with or without critical success. But all it takes is one person to love enough to realise they have just found out what their favourite game of all time is. Then to talk about it, suggest others to play, and then realise you weren't the only one who'd crowned this title as a rare treasure. Mass success never really came to Outcast. Yet what happened was over the years it became a cult game. But what was to become of Outcast? Was there a future out there beyond the disappointing release? Well, come back next time to find out what happened when Infogram greenlit Outcast's sequel.